Farah Khan. I'm coming to dance with you with my dance workshops in London and Leicester this August. See you all there.
I mean, oh my God, how do I introduce this absolute legend in front of me? I mean, Farah Khan, a warm welcome to you on filmishilmy.com and a huge congratulations on your first UK dance workshop by Navish
Oh,
Media.
very excited, Anuj. Thank you so much. Looking forward. I hope you're coming for it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We'll definitely make our best effort to be there. Look, Farah, it's the first of many. It's your first dance workshop in the UK. It's after Navish Media's first UK event, our first interview together as well.
Yep.
Tell me, given the fact that you've completed over 3 decades in the industry, do you still ever get nervous by novelty or new experiences?
Of course, I do. I mean, I still get nervous. I've been doing these workshops for the last couple of years in America, mainly New York, Boston, Jersey. We did some in Washington. But I still get nervous before every workshop, and I'm like UK. I've shot so many movies over here. It's a wonder why we haven't yet done a workshop here. But I get nervous before every, like I was hosting the IFA Awards this year. So the beginning is always, why the hell did I agree to do this? You know, and I guess 2 years, 2 minutes down the line, once you're in it, then I'm like really enjoying it, and I'm like in the zone. Then
Mm.
I'm like improvising and making, you know, the one-liners come out and the improvs come out, and so I'm looking forward to this workshop. Let me just tell you what it is about. It's basically going to be a group of all of y'all who love Bollywood and who love Bollywood songs, and particularly my songs. And it's going to be a couple of hours of maybe teach you 1 hour plus of teaching you to dance on one of my songs, with my steps. And just to add a little bit of spice to it, you get the whole Farah Khan experience with me, maybe shouting at y'all uh, and pulling y'all up and getting y'all to do a solo in the middle of the floor for everybody, and then maybe pointing out how good or bad you are,
Oh,
but
wow.
in a funny way, so don't get scared. And then there's another half an hour, 40 minutes of Q&A with me, which is almost like a master class, or where they can ask me whatever they want.
Mm.
And then it's another 25, 30 minutes of clicking pictures with everybody. And, but it gets sweaty, and it's energetic, and it's great fun. Let me
Mm.
tell you, you'll be dancing and laughing. Maybe not so much laughing when you're dancing, but yeah. Uh, but it's fun.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, I have no qualms about it not being fun. I think it definitely will be. I mean, look, there's so many amazing songs you've choreographed. So tell me, what dance routines will you especially be teaching at the workshop? And if you could perhaps share some very fond memories attached to that particular song as well, that would be amazing.
Well, normally what we try to do is we try to take a high energy song. So I like to change the song from place to place so that no workshop is exactly a clone of the other. I think the last workshop we did Ish Kamina,
Oh,
the
nice.
Shah Rukh Aishwarya
Yeah, yeah.
song. Yeah, so we did that, but that was like very fast and very high energy. So I may slow it down a bit. Then we've done workshops to songs like Fevicol and Ghagra. These seem to be the favorites of people.
Mm,
I'm still taking a call on whether which one to do, or whether we should just do a medley of songs, you know. So
mm.
we do a mashup of two or three of these songs, and uh, I'm still in the process of designing this workshop.
Right. But you know what? I have to say, Farah, I think the most beautiful thing about your choreographies as well is that they are Western in appeal. Like they seem very, modern, but yet Indian in essence. And I love the fusion that you've created over the years. How much of the Western Desi values have really impacted you as a person as well growing up?
I mean, See, Anu, you're absolutely right, because I grew up watching MGM musicals and Gene Kelly, and like Singing in the Rain's my absolute favorite movie of all times. And I grew up watching all the tap dancing and Fred Astaire and of course Michael Jackson in my teens. But I absolutely also loved the Hindi movie songs. So as a child, I used to dance like Helen. I used to be on the table doing a what a sort of cabaret when I was 4 years old, or Dam Maro Dam and all these songs. So these are all the influences that I had while I was growing up. I'm an untrained choreographer. I haven't formally learned to dance. I watched Michael Jackson and then decided that this was my calling. So there is a lot of influence, and the best thing about Bollywood is that anything goes, right? I mean, you can do a bhangra with tap dance in it, and it will completely look normal and natural. So I think a mix of those, but I love the thumkas and the jhum. The desi Govinda moves. Those are my favorite ones.
Hmm. Right. I think also your protege, Feroz Khan, actually, I interviewed him many years ago, and we were talking about
Oh,
dance.
okay.
And actually, it's interesting because, people use the term, especially here in the UK and in the West, because, they don't actually understand the differences between different Indian forms of dancing. They often say
Okay.
Bollywood dancing, but there's no such thing as Bollywood dancing. All it is just a package of everything, right? It's a fusion of everything, isn't it? So, like,
Yeah, but
have you?
Bollywood, to be fair, it is now a genre of dance.
Mm,
Like you have hip hop and you have bhangra and then you have Bollywood, because Bollywood means everything, mishmash,
masala.
sub, anything
Right.
goes. Hmm.
Huh, true. It's pretty much like your movies, actually, very commercial, very masala, and I love your
Yeah,
film.
pretty much like my movies. Yeah, it's a thali. My husband says you get everything. You know.
That's great.
Hmm.
No, absolutely. But I will be talking to you shortly about that. Actually, I've got lots of questions on that. But look, I think when it comes to choreographers, and especially if you were female, I think when you broke through, it was so rare for women to, break through. I mean, of course, we had Saroj Khanji at that time as well. But how tough was it for you, to break through a very male-centric industry and a male-dominated one at that? And what hurdles do you think you face now as well?
Okay. So this question is asked to me very often, and at that point, I don't think I ever saw my hurdles coming to me because I was a woman. I think they came to me because I was very young and
Hmm,
very, very different from what was happening in the industry. So
hmm,
I think the hurdles were like, oh, like she's different. It's not like, oh, she's a girl and she can't do it, because Sarojji was the reigning queen of choreography at that point and she
hmm,
was doing it. So, um, and even when I made my movie, the hurdles were not like Shah Rukh never questioned that, oh, she's a girl and she can't do this movie. It was more like, it came after Main Hoon Na. I think the resentment came after Main Hoon Na release. Like, how dare a girl make an action movie like this? And, this is a boys' club. And I think it came after that. The bitching started after that. But I don't think I see it in terms of gender really, because to be fair, Bollywood is pretty much, I mean, you either know your job or you don't know your job. They are not really judging you on gender.
hmm.
I know it's like there's no studio system like the Hollywood studio system. I
Yeah,
mean,
true. But then
uh,
also, again, and I'm glad you mentioned that fact after Mehuna, because the sort of commercial film you made, I mean, these were like what, so many homages to like directors like Manmohan Desai,
of
who are
course, yes.
known for being the pioneers of the masala genre in Hindi cinema. So again, the fact that you did that as well. I mean, how did you cope with that? Because obviously for you to as an individual, and I know you're quite tough-skinned, but still to get those reactions, I mean, it must have been quite
Yeah, that
disheartening.
was tough because these were, I mean, while we were making the movie, we had a blast, and we in our minds there was no doubt that this movie is going to be the best. And because if you realize before Mehuna, everything was the love stories were happening.
Mm.
especially with Shah Rukh. Shah Rukh was in a lot of love stories. He was a romantic hero,
Yeah.
from Dilwale to Kuch Kuch Hota Hai to K3G to Kal Ho Na Ho to, he was in that mold. For him to come out as an action hero also, this was pretty much uh, new for him. This kind of action. I mean, he had done Bazigar and Dar and all, but this kind of macho, where he's an army guy. And uh, so to hear the people that I had worked with, like the directors I had worked with, who I had done songs for and who I thought were my well-wishers, to find out that they were bitching about the film, yeah, at that point it hurt. It, like, also it's your first movie, right? So you want to protect it and all. Now we are pretty much like, okay, uh you get used to it.
Mm. और जैसा
Yeah.
मैंने कहा कि एक्चुअली अगले साल तो दो decades होने वाले हैं एनिवर्सरी में होना के
Yes.
and
Yeah.
in the film you pay homage, like I said, I mean, like in all of your films really, to the classic Hindi cinema. I mean, there's so many references. I mean, of course there's a reference to Sholay. You use that song from Caravan in
Yep.
Main Hoon Na too. I mean, 20 years on, how does the filmmaker Farah Khan of today perceive that film, and what do you think has evolved in perhaps your storytelling too?
Yeah, well, so for me, of all my movies, I mean, I know Om Shanti Om was probably the biggest hit of all my movies. In terms of money, Happy New Year. In terms of everything else, but for me, Main Hoon Na is like my favorite movie. Even now when I see it, it still looks like it was made last year. The way it was shot, and it looks fresh. I think Shah Rukh's never looked better than he looked in Main Hoon Na. And I mean, Sushmita and everything, the humor, the clothes, nothing has really dated. You see some movies and 20 years later, they've not held up very well.
Yeah, no.
It looks dated, and the kind of what they are doing in the movie is also now a little cringy. But Mehuna's held up well. It still looks modern. The humor's fresh. The college looks real, exaggerated but real. Um, so for me, that Mehuna is truly like my most favorite movie. Also, we had a blast making it, and I can't believe it'll be 20 years, because we can relive every moment of it. Like, we know what we did on which day, what happened on this day of it's so fresh, not only in my mind but in everyone who worked on the movie. Whenever we meet, they're like, ma'am, that outdoor was the best, like, let's go to Darjeeling and make another movie.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, for you as your first film as a director, I mean, it was, I mean, it's a huge step up, though, right? I mean, in terms of the canvas that it was, also obviously
And
having shot.
Anuj, I waited for so long to make a movie before Mehuna. The last, for the almost 3-4 years before I made Mehuna, I had that thing that I have to direct, I have to direct. I've come here to direct a movie, and I'm just choreographing songs. And of course, I was at the top of my game and doing all the best work. But I was like, I want to make a movie. And the day the movie started, I mean, I could not believe it. I was that whole movie. I was on a high, like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm going to make a movie. So I guess any first time director will relate to that. But I was every day was a happy day. And everyone tells me I'm a far better person as a director than as a choreographer, because I'm far more patient as a director. And Manish Malhotra to tell me, I prefer working with you when you are a director, not when you're choreographing. You find too many faults in the costume then. So
Oh wow. I mean, it's crazy. It's just bizarre. I mean, honestly, like that was literally one of the golden moments, I think, for many of our childhoods as well as watching those movies. But I think also if we talk about the landscape of dance too, it's changed quite significantly. Obviously, especially when it comes to the actors. Back then actors were fresh, they were new to dancing. There was that sense of I guess a mystery attached to it because they were learning it as soon as they, went on set and got that whole experience, unless they were trained from beforehand. But nowadays, of course, the challenges I think we are faced with is, of course, the social media influence. I mean, of course, it's wonderful to see Instagram, influencers doing really well, and the real sort of culture. Of course, I mean, due respect and love to that. But how tough is it actually to teach dance in authentic sense rather than just reiterate trends on reels nowadays? Do you find it a bit of a struggle today?
I watch some of the reels, and they are absolutely fantastic. I mean, the kind of dancing that people do is just, I mean, it blows my mind. But for me, in a movie, when I put it in a movie, it won't work,
Hmm.
because that has to relate to everybody. And for me, always the hook step has always been my calling card, and it has to be a hook step that is is great, but it's also easy enough that everyone can do it.
Hmm.
So at a wedding, you will do it. At a dance party, you can do it. Whether you can dance or not, you remember my songs by the hook steps,
Yeah, true.
you know. And those are a lot of that I put in the workshop. There are a lot of my hook steps that you learn how to do properly, and with the so yeah. Otherwise, and also when you watch the dance shows, I mean, they are fantastic dancers. But if you put that dance in a movie, somehow it doesn't work.
Hmm. True.
You can't really you need to be able to dance like that. When you see a actor or someone doing, you need to be able to pick up something out of that and make it your own. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you are just a spectator and you're watching it and you're saying, wow, they're dancing really well.
Hmm.
Or
Right.
then you're a participant and you're like, I'm also going to dance like this, especially after two vodka shots, and then like everyone's a dancer.
For sure. No, and I think it's a really good point you made here as well. I mean, about your hook steps, actually, I would love to know because I look at your hook steps and then we look at Master G Ganesh Acharya ji's also hook steps, and
I
I think,
love Ganesh.
I mean,
I love it.
incredible. Really, it's so wonderful the way you have that creativity in your minds. But what inspires actually the hook steps that you create, especially for some of the iconic songs that you have done?
Well, it's difficult to say what, I mean, the process is difficult to break it into words. I guess the music also dictates what you do with it. The song will tell you where to go, and how the music will tell your body what to do with that music. So
Hmm.
the if I enjoy doing it, and there has to be a punch to it, and there has to be some kind of little bit, like Bollywood dancing is all about the hip.
Hmm.
Like American dancing is all about the leg work, and like the hand and the leg, and it's all very straight. But Bollywood is more about
Lachak.
the the lachak and the thrusting, and it's all at gut level. It's all to do with from your hip and just your torso and your hip. So I guess a lot of hook steps come from there, because you really, like, there's a bite to it. And but it's difficult to put into words, and I try not to make them very common,
Hmm.
but also has to be accessible. So we spend quite a few sessions in rehearsals trying to just get the hook first,
Right.
you know,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, just first we get the hook and then we build around it. And also, and we'll have different versions of the hook step. Like if you see the Salman song Jeene Ke Hai Char Din.
The
Okay,
towel one.
basically we didn't even have that towel movement before. We choreographed it, and we had there are, if you see the song, that comes only once in the song, that towel movement, because literally we were there on the beach and the towels were there, and I was like, "Ye towel pakdo aisa," and just do it. And it was, the song had gotten over, so we got to do it only that once it comes. But that became such a, I mean, Salman synonymous with that. Now he also did it rather well, because you have to have that harami pun to do that step. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Well,
yeah.
he
But if
carries
you
the
see
upward
the other
style.
steps,
Yeah.
different steps for that song, and they are great, but they're not. This is like little mad and little out of the box. So,
Hmm. Oh wow, that's crazy to know. But no, I think like it's like you said, Salman Khan has that charisma, that sort of swag that you need to
yeah,
really
yeah.
carry off that. I think that's what you meant to say, right? Like I think that's
Because
exactly
I
what.
know what to give him and what to give Shah Rukh, and their personalities are different. Like in Munni Badnaam, I will give him the step with the hand at the back, and then he
Yeah.
makes it his own, and then he'll do his own. thing with, but Shah Rukh will look very funny doing that step. So I would never give him that step to do,
Yeah, I
or the
completely agree.
dance step to do, because his personality is different, Huh.
Interesting perspective, actually. You have to always, I think that's probably one of the
Yeah, I think
primary.
you have to mold your steps to which actor is also doing it. Like I would never choreograph Salman like I would choreograph Ritik. Because Ritik has to be done in a different way, and he cannot dance what Shah Rukh and Salman can do, because his is a more stately dance. Like he will, you know.
Hmm.
So you have to take the actor or the actress, and then you see what is their strength, and then you kind of play to that.
It's interesting. I never thought about it that way, actually, choreography. So many
So
times I've
you
done
have
interviews
to.
and I've,
Most of the time, it's also about hiding their flaws. Like, if someone's a bad dancer, you do not give them these dance moves to do if they are not great at it, because instantly you will see that they are doing it badly. So you simplify your work, but you make the person look good.
hmm. I mean, well, you definitely have a good eye, I think, for not just personalities and charisma, but I think also for talent as well. I mean, whether it was Zayed and Amrita and Main Hoon Na, because obviously this was like a major breakthrough film for them as well. I mean, even though they had begun their films beforehand, a year before. But of course, let's not forget, I mean, you've launched, and I'm so grateful and thankful you launched a superstar like Deepika Padukone, who's one of my
I,
favorites.
yeah,
Um,
I get that. But don't forget, I also launched Rakhi Sawant in Main Hoon Na.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh my God, how could we forget Minnie? She was awesome. I loved her in that. I mean, I still remember Amrita's dialogue. What was it? A micro mini kya re? I still remember.
Yeah, not bad, Anuj. Huh.
So it was really good. It's so good to see that. So Tommy, you were talking again about instinct and judgment and all of that. But how does that also help you as a director when you are looking for fresh talent too?
Yeah, it's a, you have to play with your gut. I mean, when I met Deepika, I thought she was a pretty girl. But it's only when I put her in the costume for the her look test, to test, and we put her in the Shanti Priya's costume, and then I still have those photos, and it was just like, oh my God, she looks like Hema Malini from the 70s.
Oh
And
wow. Share those photos, please. I would love to see them.
yeah, she looks, I mean, she still looks almost the same, but there was just, she was so like ethereal and dignified, and, she was not like, she was not your regular heroine playing a college. I could never imagine her as a college girl,
Hmm.
being she had to be that stately, dignified star. She was a star. So I guess, I mean, most directors, I guess, would have this instinct. Of why they choose people. Why would Suraj Barjatia choose Salman Khan to be in Maine Pyar Kiya? Must have been a gut feeling, because I went for that screen test and Salman was awful in it, and I was like, I was like, did they choose you for this movie? Oh my God. He had taken me there to make him dance, and I ran away from that screen test. I was like, I can't make you dance, and no one can make you dance, so I'm out of here. But there's something about him that must have struck. When you write a movie, you can see the character. Maybe someone outsider may not see why you have taken this person, but because you've written the film and you know the person, in the character in the movie. So I think that's what happens with most directors who give breaks to people. They see some spark, or they see something, uh, that
Hmm.
someone else may have missed, you
Hmm.
know.
Right. And Shanti Priya was definitely an embodiment of Hema Malini. I mean, as
Of
soon as
course.
when I saw
She was not
Deepika,
cynical. Hmm.
yeah, I mean, when I saw her, and that first, I think that sequence where she just turns her face in Ajabsi and she looks at, like, oh,
Yep.
I was like, she looks so much like Hemaji. In fact, if we look at Hemaji's older films as well, like, they look
Yeah.
resemble, it's so
Yeah,
uncanny. It's
it
so
does.
uncanny.
And she also has that dignity and grace. Deepika has that grace about her. She stands straight with her spine. You'll never see her slumping,
Yeah.
like Himaji. I think it's the South Indian, discipline that they come with. Hmm.
True, for sure.
Hmm.
And she's a terrific actor. I think amongst the best, if not the best. And
Yeah,
I just
yeah. She-
love her
She's
craft.
come a
But
long way.
look,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, you must feel so proud when you see her journey
I,
initially.
I mean, when I went, where did I go? And I clicked, and there were these Louis Vuitton hoardings all over with Deepika on it. I think it was in Bangkok, and I sent I put on my social media. It just makes me feel like, because I've seen her literally as a 20-year-old girl who knew nothing and nothing about the movies, and now she's like a global star,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Really. I mean, no, for sure. Absolutely. It's so amazing. But look, I think Om Shanti Om, in many ways, is quite a brave film, Farah. I have to say, it's so tongue-in-cheek, but yet through the opulence and the humor, it addresses some very topical subjects in Hindi cinema. I mean, if you're a filmy buff like myself, you're able to really extrapolate certain things which you might have heard about in the news, especially back then. So at that point, because obviously you had reached a sense of success. I mean, you were Farah Khan, the filmmaker. People knew who you were, right? A lot more prominently. How did you step out of that image of being an established filmmaker and choreographer and kind of resonate with the story as an Aam Janta?
Well, I see. I had just Main Hoon Na, which had become a big hit, thank God, despite everyone trying to pull it down. But see, Om Shanti Om is a movie that comes from. I've lived that movie. I mean, I've been in Bollywood since I was born. I've seen the worst of it because my dad was a broke producer, who lost all his money. And then, so I've seen the bad side of it. I've seen the good side of it. I've been an outsider, then I've been an insider. So it was not, I mean, that was really, I wrote that screenplay literally in 14 days flat. That whole script, that was the easiest script I've written because it was everything I knew. I've lived it. I knew that world. In fact, now when I see it, I was like, oh, we were addressing nepotism and all much
Literally.
before Kangna made it catchphrase, you know.
Yeah.
So these were all the tropes of being in the Hindi film industry that I've lived, and I've seen people around me, my own family. My uncle is Javed Akhtar, who's written Sholay and Diwar, and my aunts were child artists, and you know, uh, so and we were the poor cousins, so we have lived on that outside looking in uh, till I got a break as a choreographer, and so that was easy to do. I mean,
Mm.
it was a movie that came from my heart, and it was all the things that I love about the movies, and these are the faults in the film industry. Producers are treated badly, and actors are throwing tantrums, but that's the madness of the business. And I think
Right.
it was really my love letter to Bollywood.
Mm. I'm going to pick on one thing that you mentioned, and I think this is something really interesting. It's about people were trying to put it down. I think it was in reference of Main Hoon Na. I think you mentioned this. Um, I feel like often nowadays, especially, even though the awareness of cinema generally has become so much more than what it was back then when you were first starting out as a filmmaker, even now, I still feel there is a sense of double standards when it does come to addressing or reviewing films which are of a masala genre or that are
Of course,
commercial and not,
of
you know,
course.
independent or parallel. And I think we need to address this here. How, what do you think? What do you think is the roots of this double standards, and how do you think collectively we as the media can perhaps, address it and tackle it a lot more better?
Well, Anuj, I'm sure it happens everywhere. I mean, critics are a pseudo lot, right? So if a movie that, yeah, I mean, come on, they like to think that they are connoisseurs of filmmaking, having never have stepped one day on a film set. Uh, and if a movie is entertaining, it can't be of any value, right? It
Hmm.
needs to be boring, and it needs to not cater to everybody, because if you cater to everybody, then it's at base level. So Manmohan Desai's movies were always reviewed badly. Always. I mean, it's been happening, I think, from the time cinema must have been invented. Now you look at Amar Akbar Anthony and you're like, oh my God, it's a classic. And, you see all the old 70s movies that were torn to bits.
Even Sholay to an extent as well at
Oh
that
my
point.
God, Sholay was destroyed for the first two, destroyed.
Hmm.
So I mean, the it happens, but now what's happening is it's become easier. I think producers have just started paying critics. You pay them and they give you your 4 stars. I should make a movie now.
Right. Well, just to clarify, I have never been paid any money to review
No, no, I'm
anything.
sure. I'm talking of you. I mean, it's a racket. There's certain amount of money you keep for PR and for reviews and for social media uh
Coverage
build
and
up. Yeah,
yeah.
social media build up. Hmm.
It's true. And I think also maybe, I mean, I was thinking about this because I do think that maybe a lot of it does come from the post-colonial hangover that we have. Like, for example, if we look at La La Land, for example, I mean, I watched that film and I was like, but we had Om Shanti Om like years ago. Like we had
Yeah,
this very sort of like film versus, opulent kind of fusion much longer. But it was a lot more love, basically, in
I know.
comparison, you know?
I love La La Land. In fact, I just saw Babylon. I love that too. I love movies about movies. Like I told you, my favorite movie, Singing in the Rain. So uh, y- yeah, I guess. Like I said over here also, when there are no more awards being given to popular films,
That's a
which
problem.
was happening in the 90s and all. I mean, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai would win, Dilwale would win, because they were popular films and they did well and people loved them and they won awards. But now you have to be like, I guess, alternate cinema to win awards, and which is fine because really any the awards don't mean anything anymore either. They're just TV shows now. The minute you accept that, you don't feel bad.
Mm. But it's
You
sad
know,
though, isn't it? Because the sanctity of what they were is no longer the same. I think that,
Anuj Sholay won two awards, one for editing
oh
and
wow.
one for sound design. It did not win for dialogue
Oh my goodness.
or screenplay or any of the actors or background. Not, I didn't win. So I mean, Om Shanti Om didn't win any. Didn't win. I think Deepika won, and we won. It didn't win for dialogue, and the dialogues are like now iconic
Iconic.
dialogue of movies. Yeah. So I mean, finally, it's okay. The award function will come and go, but the movie should live on. Like your 20 years later, you still remember Main Hoon Na, you still remember the dialogues from it. So I think that is what means so much more in the long run. As you get older, you realize that when you're younger and you made your first movie, you get very angry and antsy and why are they getting? Why am I not getting? But in the end, I think if you do good work, like Javed uncle always tells me, history is always kind to great work.
True.
Even at that point, if it doesn't do well, down the years, if it's a
Mhm.
great movie, it'll be, like how R.D. Burman is still remembered. I mean, it's
Too good.
still the movie. I mean, you're still hearing 50 years. So I guess that's what you have to go with. You make the best movie that you can and hope the maximum people see it
Hmm.
and don't care about the reviews.
Absolutely, so true. Art always remains immortal, and I think that's something which I've always believed in. But it's been a while since you've made a film, Farah. I mean,
Yep.
almost 10 years ago. I mean, you helped
Yep. 9 years.
Happy New
Yeah.
Year. Yeah, 9 years
Yeah.
exactly this year. Next year will be a decade. So, firstly, two part of the questions really. So, one part is, why has it taken you so long to direct a movie? And number
I
two,
have no idea. I have no answer for this. Just to tell you, after Happy New Year, I took a long break. My kids were 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, and I'm glad I spent a lot of time with them.
yeah,
And I was doing lots of other stuff. I think I got caught up just doing easier stuff, like being on TV and doing TV shows and doing events. And those are the perks of filmmaking. Is really hard. I think Happy New Year really took a toll on me because it was the most difficult movie that I made. It was the biggest movie. It had 7 people in every frame, and like every scene was a. So it took me, but I don't know. After that, I had a couple of scripts, but things didn't fall into place. So it just happens. Uh, and then I think the landscape changed for some time. There were all these small hinterland movies that were doing well. So then you're wondering whether you want to make this big fat commercial movie. That for the small ones were the flavor of the season. Then pandemic happened for 3 years. So lot. So a movie will be made when the movie has to be made.
That's true. But I think good on you though for managing, your personal and professional life. I mean, having that balance, I think for anyone is so tough. I mean, I struggle with it sometimes. So it's wonderful to see how you manage to
Yeah,
do that.
I think y'all don't struggle with it as much as the mother. If you're a mother,
Oh yeah,
and
true.
you're like the onus is on you for a lot of things. But I'm really happy. My kids have just gone to the 10th standard now, and now they may not have time for me. So I think the time is right to make another movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think again, I'm going to talk about again because you did a lot of shows. I mean, I think you've definitely become a very well-known tough taskmaster, I think, when it comes to judging a reality show. But again, back to keep yourself because I think that's one thing that I feel like it's so exhausting about this industry, even as a journalist, is that one has to keep themselves relevant throughout. I mean, whether it is doing interviews or anything of your main craft. How tough has it been, especially during the pandemic, Farah, to survive at that point and still maintain that relevance within the public demeanor?
Yeah, I don't know whether I think of it that way, Anuj, but I think what really clicked for me, my Instagram and the kind of reels that I make, and with especially with Karan and me together, we have this hashtag Karan. I think that also keeps it going because they're entertaining, and I don't think of it. I take a break. I really don't care if I mean, relevant or not relevant, it doesn't matter. I mean, when I make a next movie, it'll all come back again. So you don't
Mm.
take that stress and pressure because everyone is always after that new shiny thing, you
Yeah,
know.
true.
Yeah, but we have to see how long that lasts, So I mean, because I have a 30 years of experience now, I'm wiser. I don't panic that easily anymore. I don't stress about things. I've realized down these years that all the things I stressed about, you stress about in vain because what is yours will finally come to you.
Bilkul.
It will from here, there, somewhere, whenever the time is right, it will come. So there's no point in. I want a stress-free life. I like
Yeah,
my life. I like to be happy. I like to meet my friends and, have a good laugh and come and do workshops when people call me. Um, that's it.
absolutely. Absolutely. But one thing I want to ask you, Farah, is that you're very witty. आपको ये जो wit है, वो कहाँ से आती है? Like you have this very
That's a
instinctive reaction to
family trait.
humor.
Anuj, I think it's a family trait. I think my mother, if you meet my mother, you'll think that we are absolutely unfunny people because she's very, very witty. My father had a great sense of humor. And I think when you have a childhood which is tough and poverty stricken, you learn to develop a sense of humor to keep going through it. So we
Hmm.
find the funny side of every bad situation of it. Hmm.
Oh, amazing. Well, look, I think on a final note, Farah, because I think it's really exciting that, you're coming to the UK. And I think the love for Hindi cinema is still very much rampant here in Britain. Despite the backlash, obviously, the industry has unfortunately faced over the pandemic, people still crave for that Bollywood experience. And
Of
I think
course.
even now, there are people who still aspire to work in Hindi cinema and still have that nostalgia that they had as well. They hold it very
Yep.
closely. What advice would you give to all the NRIs, particularly, and Bollywood lovers here to pursue a career in Indian cinema?
Oh God. Okay. First, I would say is do it only if it's absolutely you think that if I don't do this, I will die. Only if it's like your lifelong passion, and otherwise don't do it because it's very, very tough, especially nowadays. It's the business has become very tough, and to launch anybody new, it's a struggle. I know so many people here struggling. Even bigger actors, not only unknown people, uh, struggling to get work, or to get the kind of work that they want to get. Other than that, I think Hindi is necessary. You need to really clean up your Hindi, and especially if you're living in London, you can't come with an accent and hope that, because there are just lot of fantastic actors standing in lines waiting for a role. If you see our web series or streaming platform, they're just I mean, hordes of talented people from all over India who come. So think about it very, very carefully.
Very good,
Is my
good word.
advice. Don't just land up thinking you'll be discovered.
Yeah, I mean that's a really, really good word of advice there. But it was so amazing to have Farah Khan with us on
Thank
filmishilmy.com.
you,
She's
Anuj.
gonna
And I'm
be
hoping to see you at the workshop.
for sure. Definitely, we'll definitely endeavor to be there. We'll try to be there.
And
It's
no,
my
no, that
sister's wedding. It's my
you
sister's
need to
wedding,
come there
so
and shake a leg now.
I would love to. Oh God, I would absolutely love to. But for all the Filmy Show Me viewers, Farah Khan will be in the UK on 18th and 20th of August in London and 19th of August in Leicester. The tickets for the workshop will be in the description below. But thank you so much, Farah, for
Thank
coming
you
on
for
Filmy Show
having
Me.
me, Anuj. See you soon. Looking forward to seeing y'all all in London and Leicester, guys. Be
Yes,
there.
absolutely.
Bye.
See you there.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.